Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. The sky turned dark over the alien planet Vernax. Clouds didn't cover the sun this time. It was something else. Huge ships coming from above. Long, sharp, black as shadow, and glowing with red energy. Every being on the surface looked up in fear. The old ones whispered, "They're back. The Zarkons." The Zarkons were not just aliens. They were called the god species. 10 feet tall, armored from head to toe, faster than light in their ships, stronger than any known race. Planets had fallen before them like leaves in a storm. No one fought them. No one survived them. On the surface, alien towns shut down. Shopkeepers dropped their goods and ran into basements. Children cried. Priests prayed. The leaders of Vernax, tall blue-skinned beings with glowing eyes, stood helpless. Zarkon war horns echoed through the sky. Their message was simple: surrender or be erased. And everyone surrendered, except one. Far from the capital, near the edge of a rocky canyon, a small, strange ship landed. It didn't look advanced. It was gray, scratched, small like a cargo pod. The alien guards laughed at it. "What fool lands? Here now?" one of them asked. But the ship didn't respond. Steam hissed as the door opened. Silence spread. Then, a figure stepped out. Not tall, not glowing, not armored in alien metal. A human. He wore dark armor, not shiny, just strong. His face was rough with a scar under his eye. He looked around, calm, slow, like he had all the time in the world. The aliens aimed weapons. The leader of the guard stepped forward. "You're not welcome here, human. Turn around." The man didn't speak. He just looked at the stars. Then a sudden sound, Zarkon blasters fired. A red beam struck the human's chest. Smoke, dust, silence. The guard smiled. One shot, done. But the smoke cleared, and the human was still standing. Not just standing, walking forward. His armor was burned but not broken. His eyes now burned with cold fire. "Target failed," one of the guards said, hands shaking. The human spoke at last, his voice deep and calm. "Tell your masters, the age of gods is over." Suddenly he leapt forward. Fast, too fast to follow. One guard screamed. Another dropped his gun. Bones cracked. Metal bent. In seconds, 4 elite alien guards were down. The others ran. The human stood alone beside his small ship. A young alien girl hiding nearby had seen it all. Her mouth was open, eyes wide. She had heard stories. Humans were extinct. They had burned in ancient wars. No one had seen one in generations, and now, one had returned. And he had beaten the invincible. News spread like wildfire. "Did you hear? A human destroyed a Zarkon scout team." "Impossible." "No, it's true. One man. One human." The Zarkons in orbit watched the footage, silent, unbelieving. Their general, a monstrous being with 6 arms and gold armor, leaned forward. "Send a battalion. I want this creature crushed." But another voice, an old Zarkon warlord, spoke, shaking. "If it's a human, pray it's just one." Back on Vernax, the human walked through the canyon alone. He had a small device on his wrist. It blinked red. Mission: begin Operation Firelight. Objective: break the myth, make them bleed. The man smiled slightly. He had a name: Sergeant Mason Keller, Earthborn, war survivor, and last of the Terran Black Division, and he had come for a purpose, not just to fight, but to show the galaxy that the invincible can fall. The smoke from the canyon still rose when the next wave arrived. 10 Zarkon elite soldiers landed with a crash of metal and fire. They stood tall, armored in gold with glowing red eyes and blades as sharp as lightning. They were chosen warriors, trained to kill without mercy, but they didn't come to fight. They came to investigate the rumor. A rumor of a man, a human, alone. The leader of the squad, General Tranzek, laughed as he stepped forward. One human did this. One. He kicked the body of a fallen guard aside like trash. This is a joke. But then he saw the scorch mark on the rock. A perfect blaster strike. And still, no blood. No remains. No bones. And then, a voice. You talk too much. The voice echoed from behind the rocks. The Zarkons turned. From the shadows, a figure walked out, slow, calm, without fear. His armor was black, dull, marked with silver scars. It was not made to shine. It was made to survive. His face was unreadable. Cold eyes, no helmet, just scars and silence. Tranzek grinned. So you're the monkey everyone's afraid of. The human didn't answer. Do you even know who we are? Tranzek asked. We're gods. You're nothing. Still silence. The air felt heavier. Suddenly the human moved, but not forward. He raised one arm. A small device on his wrist beeped. Then the rocks exploded. 2 Zarkon elites flew into the air, burning. Before the rest could react, the human was already among them. One twist, a neck snapped, one strike, a blade bent. Tranzek swung his energy sword. Sparks flew as it struck the black armor, but the human didn't flinch. Your weapons, the human said, are loud. He punched Tranzek in the gut. Armor, cracked. Your minds, he continued, are weak. Another elite raised a plasma cannon. The human kicked it aside and used the enemy's own weapon to crush him. Tranzek fell to his knees, coughing dark blood. What are you? The human leaned down. I'm the answer to your myth. Then he turned and walked away. One Zarkon remained alive. Barely. Wait, he cried. You can't defeat the Empire. The human stopped. I don't need to defeat it, just remind it that humans still exist. He vanished into the smoke, elsewhere. On board the Zarkon command ship orbiting Vernax, panic began to spread among the generals. He took down a full elite squad? By himself? No alien can do that. An old Zarkon officer stood slowly. His voice was cold. This isn't just a soldier. This is a Terran ghost. The room fell silent. Only the ancient remembered them. Humans, the species that vanished after the last Great War. Thought dead. Lost. Destroyed. But now, one had returned, and he was hunting them. Back, on the planet. The human, Sergeant Mason Keller, found a hidden cave deep in the canyon. He removed his damaged armor piece by piece. Underneath, his skin was cut, bruised, but his eyes were focused. He looked at a small hollow device. A face appeared, female, young, human, smiling. It was a recording. If you're seeing this, Mason, then you made it. Finish what we started. He didn't smile. He just whispered, I will. He pressed a button. The device burned and turned to ash. He stood, armored. Once again, Zarkons had woken something ancient, and they would pay the price. Black Ridge was a graveyard waiting to happen. Sharp cliffs towered on both sides, and the ground was black rock, burned by ancient wars. Locals avoided this place. They believed ghosts lived here. But now, it was worse. Now, Zarkons had turned it into a base. Dozens of black and red towers stood like spires of death. Smoke rose from factories. Drones buzzed overhead. Hundreds of alien prisoners worked day and night carrying metal, breaking rocks, building war machines. No one escaped, until he arrived. A quiet tremble passed through the camp. Rumors moved faster than sound. The human is coming. Some laughed, some prayed, some planned to hide, but no one could forget what had happened in the canyon. One man, one human. He crushed a full Zarkon elite team, and now, the same man was heading straight for the heart of the ridge. Midnight. The night was still, too still. A Zarkon officer scanned the desert. No movement, no threats. And then, a blast. The main gate exploded. The officer was thrown back. Alarms screamed. Figures rushed to respond, but by the time they reached the gate, it was too late. He was already inside. Sergeant Mason Keller stood alone in the main square, surrounded by fire and smoke. Behind him, the gate still burned. In his hands, he held nothing but a blade, a curved black combat knife. No guns, no grenades. He didn't need them. Zarkon's soldiers charged at him from all sides, but Keller moved like lightning. One fell. Then, another. Blood sprayed the ground. Sparks danced as metal clashed against armor. A captain shouted, "Trap him! Use net guns!" Keller flipped through the air, landed behind the attackers, and smashed their weapons with his bare hands. The alien prisoners watched from their cages, silent, shocked. A young alien boy grabbed the bars. "Who is he?" "An older," prisoner answered. "That's no soldier, that's a storm." Inside the command tower, General Valcor, a tall Zarkon with mechanical arms, roared with rage. "Send everything. Tanks, drones, snipers. He dies now." Keller, meanwhile, had made his way to the armory. He didn't break the lock. He hacked it. In seconds, he was inside. Not to steal, but to plant. He set charges on every crate, every wall, every fuel cell. By the time he left, the tower was glowing. At the moment he stepped out into the courtyard again, 20 tanks rolled in. Their cannons aimed. Soldiers surrounded him. "Drop your weapon," Valcor said through speakers. "You're finished." Keller looked around and smiled. "I'm not trapped in here with you," he said quietly. "You're trapped in here with me." Then he pressed a button, and Black Ridge exploded. Flames tore through the towers. Tanks flipped. Drones dropped like flies. The ground shook as fire lit the night like a second sun. Alien prisoners ducked. Guards screamed, through it all. Keller walked out of the flames. His armor was black with ash. His blade still dripped blood. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He just walked. Calm, unstoppable. Aftermath. The next morning from orbit, Zarkon Command stared at the screen. Black Ridge was gone. No signals. No survivors, just smoke and ruins. A general whispered. "He burned a whole stronghold. Alone." "Who trained him?" another asked. "No one trains like that anymore," the eldest general replied. "Only humans used to." A pause. "Then," he said, "send word to the Emperor. We're at war." Meanwhile, in the desert outside the ruins, Keller stood alone beneath the rising sun. The wind blew dust across his boots. He looked to the horizon. More Zarkon cities lay ahead. More pain. More power. More lies to destroy. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a metal tag. Dog tags. Worn. Scratched. It read, "Earth Division, Keller, M." He closed his eyes for a moment. Then he walked forward. High above the burning remains of Black Ridge, the sky tore open. A new ship arrived. Not fast, but heavy. Its engines shook the clouds. Its shadow covered the ground like a thunderstorm. Inside that ship were monsters, Titan-class Zarkon warriors, built in labs, bred only for war. Each Titan stood over 12 feet tall, covered in plated armor thicker than starship hulls. They didn't bleed. They didn't scream. And they had never lost until today. Planet surface, crater zone Delta, the first Titan landed with a quake. Dust clouds flew. Its glowing eyes scanned the area. The second and third followed. Their steps crushed boulders. Every movement echoed like thunder. A signal blinked on their HUDs. Target, human male. Name, unknown. Threat level, black. Objective, one Titan asked. Another replied, "Crush, burn, end it." Far ahead in the desert, Sergeant Mason Keller stood on a cliff watching their descent. He didn't move. He didn't panic. He had waited for this. The Titans began to spread, searching the canyon below. "Small," one said. "Slow prey." They laughed in their distorted voices. But something strange happened. Their systems began to glitch. Navigation scrambled. Heat sensors failed. One Titan slammed its fist into its own helmet. EMP interference detected. Too late. From behind a stone ridge, Keller struck. He didn't have fancy tech, just brains and planning. The first Titan fell to a trap. Explosive spikes rigged under the sand. Its legs shattered. The ground cracked as it hit the earth, roaring like a falling mountain. Keller leapt onto its chest, slammed his blade deep into its throat joint, right where the armor was weakest. The Titan choked on sparks. Its lights died. One down. Two, go. The other Titans turned, screaming in rage. "Where are you, human?" A rocket flew in from the side, hitting one in the shoulder. It stumbled. Smoke billowed. Its left arm hung loose. From the canyon wall, Keller ran across a narrow ledge like a shadow. The damaged Titan fired blindly, lasers tearing the rock, but Keller was already gone. Suddenly he dropped from above like a falling star, landed on its back, and shoved an electric blade through the neck armor. Sparks burst. The giant staggered. It tried to grab him, but Keller jumped off before it exploded. The last Titan was different. It didn't charge. It waited. Smarter, older, a veteran killer. It looked at Keller and spoke. "You fight like a ghost." Keller replied, "I am one." The Titan fired a net cannon. Keller rolled under it. A second blast grazed his shoulder. He grunted, wounded but still standing. The Titan rushed him now, fists raised. Keller had nowhere to run. The ground shook as the Titan's massive foot came down. But Keller didn't move. He dived under, slid between the Titan's legs, and attached a small blinking device to its back. The Titan spun around, too slow. Keller held up a small detonator. "You lost. The second you landed." Boom! The charge exploded. Fire shot through the cracks in the Titan's armor. It fell to one knee, then slammed face first into the canyon floor. Dead. Aftermath. Keller stood in the dust, breathing heavy. His armor was cracked. Blood ran down his arm. But he was alive. And 3 Titans weren't. He looked at the battlefield. Giant. Corpses, broken steel, crushed rock. A drone watched from above. Somewhere in orbit, Zarkan generals watched the footage with cold silence. He killed them all. One whispered, "He's not just a soldier," another said. "He's a message." A third added, "We made a mistake." The Zarkan Emperor received the report and stood from his throne. "Send my daughter," he ordered. "If she fails, then I'll face him myself." Keller walked to the wreck of the Titan he first killed. He removed a broken faceplate. Inside was not just wires but a face. Pale, grown in a lab. He stared at it and said quietly, "This is what you've become. Machines trying to act like gods." He tossed the face into the sand and walked away, toward the next war. The Zarkans had never feared anyone, until now. Across the galaxy, fear began to whisper. A single human had destroyed squads, burned bases, and killed Titans. The alien empires were watching, listening, and one question echoed in every war room. What makes a human this dangerous? Zarkan Research Center, Sector X5, in a dark lab floating above a dying star. Zarkan scientists gathered. Screens flickered with footage of Mason Keller. They paused the video at one frame. Keller standing on a burning battlefield, covered in dust and blood, eyes calm like stone. The lead scientist, a frail Zarkan with silver wires for fingers, spoke softly. "He fights like a beast, but thinks like a ghost." Another replied, "We have fought strong species. We have crushed smart ones. But humans don't break." They dug deeper. Files recovered, Terran archives stolen. The screen blinked with old human files, blurry, corrupted. But some lines remained. Earth gravity 9.8 ms2, considered harsh. Human endurance levels far exceed Zarkan-class soldiers. Training from childhood, struggle, failure, emotional trauma. Mental condition, unpredictable. 1. Note stood out. Humans survive not because they are the strongest, but because they never stop trying. Flashback. Earth 15 years ago. A much younger Keller was crawling through mud. Cold rain hit his back like knives. Drill instructors screamed, "Get up! You're not done. Pain is the path to purpose." He slipped. Fell again. His hand bled. His knee was broken, but he pulled himself forward. Beside him, others had already given up. He didn't. Back in present day, Vernak's outskirts, Keller sat near a small campfire, bandaging his wounds. His armor was damaged. His energy cells were low, but his eyes still burned with focus. He watched the flame and whispered to himself, "It's not about winning. It's about lasting longer than they expect." A small alien girl approached from behind a rock. Her name was Yari. She had been following him for days, silently. "You're not like them," she said. Keller didn't look at her. "Like who?" "The Zarkons. Or the others. You don't kill for fun." He stayed quiet. She sat beside him. "Why do you fight?" Keller finally answered. "Because someone has to." Meanwhile, on Zarkon Prime, the Emperor's daughter, General Shirella, stared at the human's file. "He has no army. No fleet. No backup," she said. "Then why are we losing to him?" Her advisor replied, "Because he fights like he has nothing left to lose." Shirella frowned. "Then it's time we take something from him." Elsewhere, a quiet moment, Keller opened a hidden box from his belt. Inside was an old photo, torn at the edges. A woman, a child, a dog, all smiling, all gone. The Zarkons had taken them during a border raid many years ago. He didn't cry. He just stared. For a long time. Then he put the photo away and stood. "This isn't revenge," he said. "This is the answer to everything they thought they knew about us." The sky above planet Krynos turned red. Zarkon banners flew high, above black towers that reached into the clouds. Their final stronghold was here, built like a fortress the size of a city. No outsider had ever seen it. Until now. Inside its steel walls, the last and most brutal Zarkon commanders waited. They called it Citadel Vroth. Inside the stronghold, War Council room. The Emperor's daughter, General Shirella, stood before a burning map. Her armor gleamed like obsidian and her eyes were colder than ice. "Our outer bases have fallen," she said. "Our titans destroyed, our pride shattered." She slammed her fist down. All by one man. Her voice shook the walls. The room fell silent. Then she spoke again. This time softly. "Let him come. We'll bury him here." Far outside. The desert edge, Keller stood at the canyon ridge, overlooking the stronghold in the distance. The towers lit the sky like a machine god's temple. Beside him were three others, not soldiers, survivors. Yari, the small alien girl who now refused to leave his side. Kale, a former Zarkon slave with one arm and a fire in his heart. Lina, a resistance sniper from a lost moon, silent, deadly, broken but strong. They weren't an army, but they were enough. Keller turned to them. "This is it," Kyle asked. "Do you have a plan?" "No," Keller said. "Just a reason. Infiltration begins." That night, the walls of Citadel Vroth echoed with drills and alarms, but no one saw the four shadows slipping through the drain vents beneath the citadel. No one heard the footsteps above the ceiling pipes. No one expected humans to come through fire and filth. They reached the weapon storage room. Keller planted charges, then they moved through the generator tunnels. More charges. Every step was precise, silent, deadly. But things changed when they reached the main command hall. The trap was waiting. The ambush lights burst on. Dozens of Zarkon elites dropped from above. Blasters aimed, swords drawn. Shirella stood at the top of the stairs. "I've been waiting, human." Keller didn't flinch. She raised her hand. Kill them all. The fight. The room exploded into chaos. Keller fought with bare hands and burning rage. Kale used his broken arm like a club. Lina sniped from a tower window. Yari, small but clever, used enemy weapons against them. Zarkon, after Zarkon fell, but so did Kale. He took a blade to the chest, protecting Yari. Keller caught him as he fell. Go, Kale whispered. Finish it. Keller stood, blood on his hands, eyes blazing. He charged through the chaos, straight toward Jirella. The final duel, human versus princess of the Empire. Jirella met him with 2 curved blades. She was faster than any Zarkon he had faced. Her strikes were wild, beautiful, and deadly. Keller blocked, rolled, countered. Steel clashed against steel. She laughed. You're strong, but I was born to kill. He replied, I was born to survive. Their fight shook the floor. Keller took a blade across his side, but drove his fist into her helmet. Cracks formed. She kicked him back. He slid across the floor, coughing blood. She raised her sword high, but then she froze. Behind Keller, the charges planted all over the citadel, blinked, ready to blow. Keller smiled through the pain. I didn't come to kill you. I came to end this place. Jirella stepped back. You'd die with us? If that's the cost. The escape Lina pulled Yari out through a side tunnel. Keller, bleeding and barely standing, limped to the exit. As the timer counted down, he looked back at Jirella, who stood frozen in shock. He ran. Boom! The citadel erupted in fire and metal. Smoke covered the land. Out of the burning wreckage, a shape moved. Lina gasped. Yari screamed. It was Keller. Alive. Barely. His armor was gone, his body broken, but he was still walking. Zarkon's strongest fortress was gone. Their leaders, gone, and the galaxy was watching. Back in the Zarkon lab, the scientists looked at one last line from human files. Warning, do not corner a human. Their fight begins when all hope ends. The lab lights flickered. An explosion rocked the hallway. The door melted down, and there he was, Mason Keller, alone, injured, burning with fire. He had come for their knowledge, and to remind them of the one code they never understood. Humans don't give up, even when it makes no sense. The smoke from Citadel Vroth rose like a black flag into the sky. The ground was scorched. Towers lay in pieces. Once called invincible, the Zarkon Empire's last stronghold was now a burning memory, and out of the ashes, he walked. Keller limped forward, his armor broken, his body bleeding. But his eyes still burned with fire. Behind him, the survivors gathered. Lina helped carry Yari. No one spoke. They all just stared at the man who had destroyed an empire with his will. Zarkon Prime, the throne. Far across the stars, the Zarkon Emperor stood before a giant screen. The fire reflected in his eyes. His hands trembled. Footage from the battlefield played silently. One human. One war. One message. You are not gods. The Emperor turned and walked to a chamber no one had entered in centuries. A chamber holding a single relic. The first blade. It was time for him to finish what others had failed. Back on the battlefield, Keller rested inside a half-destroyed cave. A voice echoed from outside. I see you're still breathing, human. He looked up slowly. There he was, the Zarkon Emperor. Tall, clad in ancient armor. No guards, just the sword. Keller struggled to his feet. You came alone? The Emperor nodded. To end this myself. They stared at each other for a long time, no words, no fear. Then they attacked. The final fight, man versus Emperor, steel clashed. Sparks flew. Keller ducked and rolled. The Emperor swung with ancient fury. Each strike meant to kill. But Keller didn't block with strength. He used timing, precision. His every move said, I've lost everything. I have nothing left to fear. The Emperor cut deep into Keller's side. Blood poured. But Keller didn't fall. Instead, he stepped forward and stabbed the Emperor's leg. Both men dropped to their knees, panting. "You fight like a beast," the Emperor said. "No," Keller whispered. "I fight like a man who remembers pain." The Emperor raised his blade for the final blow, but Keller reached into his belt and pulled out a broken metal shard, a piece of his old dog tag. He drove it into the Emperor's neck. The Zarkon gasped, dropped his sword, and fell. Silence. The air stood still. The Zarkon Empire had lost. No armies left, no gods, just ruins. 1 week later, Galaxy broadcast a message was sent across every system, not just from humans, but from every race once ruled by the Zarkons. A video played, a human soldier standing beside alien children. A burning banner of the old empire on the ground. Keller's voice spoke. "To those who were beaten, broken, and silenced, stand up. You were never weak. You were just waiting for the right moment. That moment is now." A small garden on Vernak's time passed. The world began to heal. Trees grew where bombs had once fallen. And in a quiet garden, Yari sat beside a man with silver in his hair and scars across his face. "Keller," she asked, "do you think they'll come back?" He shook his head. "No, and if they do, someone will be ready." Yari looked up at him. "Someone like you?" He smiled for the first time in years. "No. Someone better." She hugged him quietly. He looked up at the stars, peaceful now. No red shadows, no warships, just light. They called the Zarkons gods. But even gods can fall. And all it took was one human who refused to kneel.